everybody, this is Walt.
This is Max.
And you are listening to our podcast on dystopian cinema.
We are, as always, Useless Info Inc., and today, for the first time ever, we've managed to cajole somebody else to join us for this. We have a special guest with us. Welcome to Hallie.
Hello.
Yeah, we basically kidnapped her.
Yes, essentially. And she's actually listened to this, which makes her among a rare minority. So let's get this started now. Okay. Today we're going to do The Omega Man, 1971, directed by Boris Sagal, starring the legendary
Charlton Heston.
That's right.
Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston. Let's start a little summary of this one. So it is 1975, roughly, right? Los Angeles. We join Robert Neville, Mr. Heston himself, after a biological war has wiped out most of humanity, right?
Between, is it China and Russia?
It starts with China and Russia, yeah. And he's wandering around Los Angeles.
Actually driving around.
He's driving around.
He's
cruising. Because
great 70s car.
And that car is awesome.
With an amazing soundtrack and no LA traffic whatsoever.
Yep.
Because that's one of the benefits post-apocalypse.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, the first car he's in is a 1970 Ford XL, the red. The cherry red.
And then he gets the Mustang, right?
The powder blue Mustang, yes. Also in 1970.
Why wouldn't you? You can drive anything you like.
Right.
Yeah.
And he drives it right through the showroom window.
Yeah, of
when he
course.
gets the Mustang, which is fantastic.
Why not?
Yeah.
But he's not quite alone, right? There are creatures of the night wandering around,
So to speak.
So the plague has killed most people, but it has mutated some people into these creatures who are highly sensitive to light. They can't be exposed to any light or daylight. Their skin is very pale, and they wear these strange black robes for some reason.
Like Gregorian monks,
Yes.
but they can't chant or
They can't, no.
or do kung fu.
Not even close. Led by a guy named Matthias.
Yes.
And they're called the Family. A not-so-subtle reference to the Manson family,
To the Manson family,
because
yes.
this was 1971.
And they're very culty.
Yes, very, very culty. But we soon find out that there are actual other humans alive, right?
That haven't been infected yet. Or they have the infection, but it hasn't mutated or
Fully turned.
they don't have symptoms yet.
Exactly.
Right.
And among them is Lisa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lisa and Dutch, and they've. So let's back up a little bit. So Heston, every night he fights these guys because they don't come out in the daytime. He does his thing during the daytime, but at night he kind of holes up in his apartment building, and they lay siege to him.
Yeah.
Every night. I don't know when he sleeps, but
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because that's never really
Exactly.
explained at all in the film.
It's really depressing, too, that after most of humanity has been wiped out, you still have to deal with annoying neighbors. Like, your neighbors are still a giant pain in the ass. Like, really?
A bunch of Rob Zombie fans coming at you every night with catapults and
there's something you will never get away from.
the army of Rob Zombie.
So they capture him,
Yes.
and then they're gonna
They take him to Dodgers.
They're going to
Stadium.
burn him alive in
Yeah,
Dodger
at the stake,
Stadium.
yeah.
But he's
Because that's
saved.
what they do. The burning is their thing. They're really into fire.
Yeah, and from what I recall, that's how they usually start games out at Dodger Stadium, right? So
With a
human
crucifixion
effigy.
and a burning?
Yeah,
or-
of course.
yeah.
I mean, it is L.A. after all. But he gets saved by these last surviving humans, Lisa
and Duke.
and Dutch.
Dutch. Is it Dutch?
I think it's Dutch. Is it Dutch?
Dutch or Duke? I can't remember.
I don't even
I think it's
remember what
Dutch.
his
I
name
know,
is.
right?
Yeah.
In my head,
Shit.
he's like
Okay, I'll go
hot
with
youngish
Dutch.
doctor guy.
I like that even better.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, he was also in Vanishing Point. He played a deputy sheriff in Vanishing
God, I
Point.
forgot that. Okay.
Anyway, so
Good call. So they rescue him, and they take him to their kind of outpost outside the city, and
Right.
they've got a bunch of children who haven't turned yet.
right.
So Neville says, well, one of them is kind of starting to turn, right? Richie, the young kid.
Yeah, who is Lisa's brother.
Lisa's brother, right.
Right.
And then Neville does a blood transfusion, eventually manages to save Richie and bring him back.
Yeah.
And that's when things kind of go bad, right?
Which they always do in the future, in a
Well, they
dystopian
have
future,
to. They
one
have
way
to.
or the other.
It's this kind of world.
Because it seems like there's a silver lining here, and then all of a sudden, exactly what happens is Richie goes, well, we can help the rest of the family and Matthias's people. Mm-hmm. And he runs off to try and do that.
Yeah.
and disastrous results
Yes.
ensue.
Well, and he and his sister also have a history with Matthias and his people.
Right. They ran with him at one point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is an
Before they
interesting,
really turned. Right.
interesting detail. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Richie gets killed. Neville goes to try to find
Off
him.
camera, though. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Off camera. He finds him dead.
Because,
And
yeah, he
then
goes looking for
Then,
him.
of course, he goes ballistic. But he gets back to his place to find out that Lisa has turned.
Lisa's turn.
Lisa's turned. And she's invited the rest of the family into the building. And that's when things just fall apart.
Fall way apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the end, Neville gets speared by Matthias.
In the heart.
In the heart,
Yeah.
yeah. And
From that balcony. He throws that
That's
that
a
balcony.
very impressive target hit
Yeah.
by a man who can't really see.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
true. And then Neville dies in a crucifixion pose because, of course,
in his Jesus Christ pose.
but he
yeah.
gives up. Nice reference. But he gives up the last of his transfused blood to
Right.
Dutch, who is presumably going to go off and cure Lisa. And the new generation kind of go off on their own while
Right.
Neville dies.
Right.
Yes.
In that fountain.
With some postmodernist art. For some reason.
Right. Some weird sculpture.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the Christ pose.
Yes.
And of course, why wouldn't Charlton Heston want to die? Have an on-screen death
Yeah.
like Christ or Moses. Or,
Right.
You know.
Yeah, because,
So.
of course.
Yeah.
All right, interesting movie, guys. So let's. I have some discussion topics. If you would be up for engaging me on those. First question I have for you people: how obvious is that Christ imagery? On a scale from very obvious to knock you over the head repeatedly obvious.
Knock you over the
I
head.
think it's at 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one goes to 11.
I mean, it's not just the ending where he spreads out his arms and kind of puts his legs
Right.
in that pose.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to do that on my deathbed. I'm going to be like, okay, I got one last thing to do. Okay, just like spread my arms out. I'm going to put my leg. Okay, you can do a selfie.
Thanks for
and,
giving me a heads up on that.
yeah, just so you know. But it's all these other references. Like the little girl says to him, "Are you God?" And then,
Which I wish he kind of would have said, I kind of am.
No, but I am Moses.
Right.
No, but I
Let
do
my
have a special
people
relationship
go.
with him.
Moses.
We are tight, though, of course. And then when
Yeah,
Richie,
me and God are like
Now
this.
it's better.
Yeah.
I'm Charlton Heston.
when Richie recovers, he says, "I'm beginning to see the light."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then there's
Yeah.
other ones that are forgotten, but it's all over the place.
There's a lot of religious connotation in this film.
Yes.
Is it too
All
much?
over the place.
What do you think?
Well, I think if you're going to have a movie like this, The Omega Man, you kind of have to go that route to one point or another.
Yeah, I mean, it's Charlton Heston. He's allowed to be the Jesus guy.
If anybody can get away with it, it is Charlton Heston.
Yeah, and if you're going to hire an actor to do it, it might as well be the guy who has made how many biblical epics?
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Ben-Hur, Ten
yeah.
Commandments.
Where
Yeah.
he doesn't play Jesus, but he gets visited by Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're tight.
Yeah.
Exactly. yeah.
God told him, you know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
here's the tablets.
So, yeah, I mean, there's something about Charlton Heston's sense of pomposity that can carry that off for me.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In a way that, as I told you before, that he didn't really work for me in Soylent Green so much.
Interesting. Okay.
I had a hard time buying Charlton Heston as, like, gritty cop.
See, Soylent Green came right after this. Like by a year or two, I believe.
Something like something like that.
And Zachary, Matthias' right-hand man, plays Father Paul.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Plays Father Paul in Soylent Green.
Interesting. So it's almost a dystopian diptych.
I do know that
Yeah.
the producer is the same. Walter
Dystopian
Seltzer.
dipstick? What?
Diptych. You took art
Using
history,
fancy words.
motherfucker.
Using fancy words on me.
You were in art school.
Of course, I had to make the joke. I couldn't resist. I think Roger Ebert, I read one of his reviews online about the Omega Man when it came out years ago.
Yeah.
And he said, if there's going to be a last man on Earth, of course it's going to be fucking Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Because at that time,
Yeah.
I consider this part of his dystopian trilogy.
It very much is.
Right?
Planet of the Apes.
Start with Planet of the Apes, the Omega Man, and then Soylent Green.
You know, I was having this thought that I wonder if Charlton Heston's allegiance to the NRA had anything to do with him making all these dystopian films and just thinking so much about the fact that so much could go so very wrong. He's like,
We need guns.
I need my guns. I pry it out of my cold dead hands.
Was he NRA back then? That early?
Well, not necessarily, but
Okay.
that is now
Oh,
his
you mean
experience.
like? Okay, right. I see what you mean. Like,
So-
experience. Yeah, being the last man alive so many times, then
Yeah,
so
Right.
his consciousness.
it's
Okay,
like-
yeah.
Because you know I'm going to be the last man alive.
Yeah, I'm hanging
Yeah,
on to my firepower. I don't know. It's just
It's
a thought that
possible.
occurred to me.
It's possible.
See, the other side of it is that he's so staunch about that, but then so liberal in other ways.
Back then he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when he got older, of course, he got very, very, curmudgeon-y and,
Yes.
talking about
as
gun
we
rights. And
noted,
Yeah.
he actually has a love scene with a black woman in
which,
this.
which I've read is supposed to be the first interracial kiss in a movie.
It's one of the first.
I mean, television was Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah.
Between Kirk and
it is
Uhura.
I don't know if it is the first, but it's definitely one of the first.
See, because I started thinking when I read that, we have Live and Let Die, but that came a little bit later. With
Right.
Roger Moore.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that did. I think it was 73, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because this is
71.
71.
Yeah.
So, right.
And what I especially like about that is that they don't really mention it as being odd.
No, it's really tossed off.
Yeah, yeah.
In
Yeah.
a way that
yeah.
Jesus imagery is not.
Well, yeah, that's heavy-handed. Sure, that's heavy-handed.
But the interracial kind of coupling is not made any big deal of. I made a bigger deal out of it in my head, thinking, why does she want to hook up with Charlton Heston when hot doctor guy, shirtless doctor
You
guy?
you like that guy?
Okay. Okay.
You know,
The actor
if
is
I'm
it's
gonna
Paul
pick one.
Paul Koslow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul Koslow.
He's wearing like a denim jacket and with no shirt.
Right, and he's got the middle finger patch on the
Right.
back.
Oh, I missed that.
On the back of it, he's got a
Yeah,
middle
so
finger patch.
He's like the cool hip.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Allie.
Go ahead.
He's driving a custom Harley chopper panhead,
Whoa.
which is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
chopper.
You talk about, a great 70s ride.
Mm-hmm.
You want a motorcycle, you want a 70s custom chopper to sit back on, especially if you're not wearing a shirt, under your jacket.
And I think he's got the look for it. I mean, the only thing that I could come up with that is that he must be gay, and that's why these two awesome, attractive people
Didn't hook up.
are
Okay.
just friends.
I think that there is a crucial point of comparison that we're all missing right now, because when you look at Dutch, he's got a baby butt glossy chest, whereas Charlton Heston
Has a man
he's got like a
sweater,
weasel
hair shirt.
clamped to his pecs. Okay, he's
we
got the
know.
sea of reeds. Okay, that is landscape right there.
He
It's
has
intense.
Not one, but two really gratuitous shirtless scenes in this movie.
Well,
Was there only two? Because I thought there were more.
maybe gratuitous for you, but maybe not for everybody. Now, okay.
it's in my contract.
Doesn't want to hook up with Charlton Heston.
Well, okay. The thing is, none of us were young women in 1971. But I'm wondering if at the time, Heston, with that bodacious gorilla chest, was a male
It would be the
ideal.
hippie guy. It
Really?
it would
Okay.
definitely be the counterculture guy on a Harley.
Maybe it's just you and me,
Yeah,
Walt.
and
We
he had those nice curls.
yeah. I think Walt and I grew up with a significant man crush on Charlton Heston.
Oh, yeah. He's a giant dude.
Okay.
He's got
Well, and maybe
a giant chest.
But it also
Covered
I
in
also
hair.
wonder. I've been thinking about this too. It's like, did the director decide that we need this much of Charlton Heston's chest in this picture, or did Charlton Heston come out and say, I think
It's
this would work
probably.
It's probably Heston that said, you know what, I'm going to take my
Do
shirt
I really
off now.
need to wear a shirt right now?
better. How about if I just walk around?
How many times do I have to wear a shirt during this picture?
I feel sweaty.
I mean, as we noted, I think we calculated his age at 49 at the time.
He was nearly 50,
He
yeah.
was nearly 50,
And-
so
Yeah.
for a nearly 50 man in the early 70s, not
Hey.
Yeah.
horrible.
Brother was
And also,
good.
Yeah.
he was tall. He was a
Yeah.
big guy.
But
I
at
think,
the same
he
time,
was like,
right?
what, 6'7" or something?
Not enough. He's no Sting. He hasn't been doing his yoga.
Sting ain't Sting no more.
Wow.
Nobody's, you know.
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, I do get that point. I kind of wish that it does. I do see your point. I do feel like there's something missing in there because at that point, she and Dutch, as far as I know, are the only adults alive on the planet.
Right.
So why would they not have
And
hooked
also,
up?
she is a very rad, very capable, very badass
Oh,
woman.
yeah,
of
yeah,
her
yeah.
own.
She's got that great leather outfit at one
Oh my
point
God.
too. It's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like
She's
fake
awesome.
snakeskin with the pants
Yeah.
and the brown.
Yeah,
That shit is fucking
On
super
point,
bad.
On point.
See,
Yeah.
the key is you can literally wear anything because every store is open to you to take whatever you like.
She did, but okay. There's that scene with Charlton Heston where he's sitting in that green velour suit.
I
with
love that suit.
with
Max
the frill.
The Squire of Gothos look. That is
It's like
awesome.
what the fuck? Really?
The velvet jacket's nice. The cravat is a ruffle
That's what it's
too
called, a
far.
cravat.
That would be a cravat.
But why
It's a
not?
cravat.
Why not?
He thought he was Prince for a second, and you know, it's like controversy.
Okay.
I was like, what the fuck? What is he? What? And he's playing chess with the dummy with Caesar.
Uh-huh.
The statue.
He called Caesar that he had his cap on and the whole thing.
To take up your point again, Hallie, what I've always thought, just sort of in my head canon, is that she and Dutch kind of hooked up, but then they didn't have the chemistry. Oh, let's just be friends.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just gotten sick of each other. At
But
that
it
point.
would have been a good idea for a script to build in one line. It would have been really
At
easy.
least to know,
yeah,
if it
Neville,
happened
if Neville
or-
just said, "Well, what about you and Dutch?" and if she said, "Oh, well, you know, this worked out," you know, it would have been easy, and I do feel like that would have just kind of curbed it because it is an issue, I think. But more importantly, that jacket, one reason I especially wanted Hallie in on this is Hallie has had some background and expertise in costuming.
I used to be a costume professional.
Yes, so I want to hear some thoughts on the costume design in this movie.
Well, I definitely have some thoughts on robes.
Uh-oh, really? Robes. Let's talk robes.
I have a lot of thoughts
Robe
on
talk
robes.
with Hallie.
Robe talk.
So yeah, the robes.
Yes.
This it serves a very good purpose to make them look very culty and unified. There's a nice attempt to get some variety in there with textures, like Matthias has his moire satin robe.
These are words that
I know, right? What the hell?
He might actually have an extra tier of ruffles there. I can't remember.
I hope so.
We're gonna have to start a separate
Somebody
podcast.
has like a leather-ish robe. Somebody's got like a
That would be
sparkly one.
mine.
So that kind, of,
Yeah, right.
that kind of variety, I appreciate that they attempted some variety. However, in the interest of verisimilitude, where are they getting all these identical robes?
Especially the glitter ones. The
Any
ones
of
with the
them.
glitter.
I mean, you're saying that they're ransacking all these places in LA. Is there like an Ingmar Bergman's House of Robes?
Perhaps.
If there
They
were,
have.
I would shop there all the time, obviously.
or it's like part of the initiation that
You got to make your own robe.
yeah, you got to make your own
Yeah.
robe,
Yeah.
half blind.
And she
so
she shows up in one, like, in a couple of hours. So
Yeah,
we're-
in a second.
I'm sure
right.
somebody died and she, like, picked that one up temporarily.
But
it
that
would
one's
be- it
one of
would
the
be
ones
like
that has the sparkle shit on it.
Yeah.
The post-apocalyptic home ec classic doom, all of them like sitting there, not being able to see. And let me tell you, as somebody who is now losing her eyesight, it's really hard to sew when you cannot see very well.
True enough.
So I have mixed feelings because I understand the
Well, the look is cool, right?
the look is cool, and I understand the visual impact they want to make. However, you scratch at it a little bit, and it really just all frays to shreds.
See, you can't question this kind of stuff. You have to suspend disbelief
can.
in these
You can.
movies.
I can
You
question
have
this.
to.
And she will.
You have to suspend
I
disbelief,
will.
though. But okay, you're saying the look of it is cool. See, but that's if we delve a little too deep here, you're demystifying it. You're demystifying all of it.
But if what
I don't care where they get the robes from,
But what if they had
but
all,
they got robes.
What if they all just like had random sheets? Like what if they were all covering themselves up, but it was all just whatever they could find?
Well, see, that's more going back to the novel, Richard Matheson's novel, where there were vampires.
Yeah.
In his novel.
Also, traditionally big robe wearers.
Vampires.
Of
Capes.
course. Yeah.
Capes.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like that's kind of the look that they were going for in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
With
it's
the
stylish
logo,
70s.
like the half
Yeah.
on it, which would be a great design for
Like,
keeping out the light.
Like,
the
what,
half bonnet.
why would you decide to do that? It's like, oh, I think it's going to be cool that we all like wear these black robes because that's going to be the thing that unifies
It makes
us.
a
Like,
statement.
It really, for the movie, kind of makes them look like they're a cult.
it does, yeah.
Nothing
Yes.
says
But no-
evil than robes.
But
black
nobody who
robes.
is actually in a cult wants to believe that they're in a cult. That's the thing.
Or look like they're in a
Or
cult.
look like they're in a cult. Yeah.
I don't know. If I was part of a cult, I'd want a robe. Fucking- But, I mean, like I said, what equals evil in certain movies like this? Black robe with a giant black hood.
Sure.
Like
But
that.
Yeah.
they could have been more
Like the
creative
Grim
about it.
Reaper.
They could have been more creative about it.
I see
Okay.
that point. Yeah.
But we're talking about a movie that was made in 1971, for
Yeah,
crying out loud.
I know.
And it was
a movie that
with
just
a meager
that
budget
does some
as
very
well.
smart things, though.
They must have. A lot of that budget must have gone to the robes.
that and the cars, I think, and the stunt,
Yeah,
the stunt people
Yeah.
also.
Because there's that one guy. He's got like disco robe.
Yeah, like like I was saying, you pick it out. There's also Charlton Heston's jumpsuit
Oh, I love the jumpsuit.
with the blue jumpsuit with all
Yeah.
the zippers on it.
Oh yeah, no, that's his whole
Towards the end.
wardrobe in this movie is legit. I love that shit. Yeah,
Oh, my
especially the
goodness.
thing with the cravat. If I could just hang out some nights with that cravat and that velour outfit on, I would so do so.
It's, well, for what,
Damn, I'll see you at the
velour
piano
and
bar.
velvet are two different things, gents.
Okay, what is it now?
That is actually velvet.
It's velvet.
that he's
Okay,
wearing.
yeah.
Velour is like a knit.
Okay,
Okay,
It's like
It's actually
those
velvet,
tracksuits
yeah.
are made out of.
so that's what I thought I had said. It is velvet, right?
It's velvet.
Did I say that before?
I thought you said velour.
I don't know
You've
what the
been
fuck I said.
alternating.
We don't-
I just
yeah,
want
right,
to.
yeah.
I just want to pin it down.
Let's
Okay.
You can edit
it
this
is.
out if you
No,
want.
it is velvet. Let's establish this. Yes, this is important.
Right, so it's a velvet.
Moss, like
Yeah.
a moss-colored velvet. The jacket is nice. You can have the suit. You gotta leave the cravat.
I am wedded to that cravat. Okay, I just once in my life or after the apocalypse, I want to wear a. As long as
All right, you know what, after
if
the
nobody is
apocalypse-
around to see me, I would still wear a cravat.
I would survive the apocalypse just to see you wear that shit. Like a cockroach, I would survive just to. You said you was gonna wear a cravat.
Yeah, you call me on it. Yeah, I'd go shopping. So another thing that we touched on briefly is the racial politics going on here. I think it's actually really interesting. We talked about the interracial relationship. When you look at the family, there's some interesting things going on. You've got Matthias, who's a
Right.
white man, and his second, Zachary, is a black man. But he's considered a brother within the family. Like Matthias explicitly says, there's no difference now.
Right.
And-
But he does have that one diatribe.
Yeah.
Zachary says he's up there living in his honky
Honky
palace.
paradise, yeah.
Paradise,
yeah,
that's
but
what it is.
Matthias says, we
Right.
in the family,
He's like, let that go.
yeah, and
Yeah.
no, that he's equal within the family, and
Right.
they literally are because now they have the same skin color. They're all pale.
They're all
right?
white.
They're all they're all
actually.
pale white.
Yeah.
So it's like
Sheesh.
in the family, like that, the racial identities are kind of, just
Erased.
like leveled out. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is interesting because that's the one thing I took away from this movie once I saw it where I could actually understand some of the messages.
Yeah.
It's about change. The movie's really about change
Okay. All
in
right.
society.
Okay.
And looking at Neville as the enemy because it's the old world. It's the way they used to think. We don't think like this anymore. We have evolved for better or worse. That's the way I kind of look at it.
So when you
at
say
points.
we,
like
you're referring
the
to
family.
so the family is seeing him as the old way,
Yeah, and that's why they keep coming after him.
and so is Richie,
Right.
because Richie tells him, "You don't belong anymore, man.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
hostile
Yeah.
because you just want to kill all these people."
So once again, like you said, the racial implications,
Yeah.
especially at the time.
Yeah.
And what's funny is when I was looking up stuff on the internet about the Omega Man, you're linked to other blaxploitation films.
I mean, it gets very when Lisa first comes on the scene, I feel like it gets very blaxploitation. And
Oh, yeah.
The movie and the music gets really funky.
Which we're listening to right now in the back.
I mean, there's definitely that. I definitely felt that element there.
Right. The way she's dressed, it's almost like Foxy Brown.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
way she comes in, takes care of herself, and kicks ass.
She fucks up Charlton Heston at one
Yeah.
point. Yeah. It's like, put your hands way out, way out.
Yeah. And he
So-
liked it.
So do you? Of course.
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, I don't know.
I was just gonna say, it's an interesting thought about it being about change. I guess the thing that I would go back to though, the nihilism of the cult,
Right.
and
Well-
I actually feel like the cult represents a much more primitive instinct, and I feel like that is underscored by the fact that they're all carrying these like prehistoric weapons, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which was something that I was like, where did they get these like Fred Flintstone clubs?
The House of Barney Rubble, you know.
Well, Max pointed out, well, maybe they, destroyed the Museum of Natural History and took all the stuff out of the displays. Which
That's a good point, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of a.
There would probably be plastic though. That's the thing in the displays. They wouldn't be like real clubs.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. It was interesting to me that they really had those sort of very like, this is a caveman club kind of clubs, and the spear that gets him at the end, and the things that they're killing, or not killing, but destroying, are all symbols of human advancement.
Right.
Art.
And he says
Science.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Matthias says it. Creature of the wheel.
So I'm not sure that it represents change in terms of a way forward so much as it represents a kind of pessimistic regression.
See, that's exactly it, I think. That's exactly it. They want to go backwards because they blame science and technology, like Max just said, for the reason why the world is in turmoil
Yeah.
in this film. They despise all of technology. He's the one that's got the guns and the cars and this and that, and I think that's why you see him cruising around like we talked about, driving around in cars. Meanwhile, they're just, in wagons, basically, pushing each other around in wagons. When they capture him, he's in a wagon with a dunce cap
They
on.
could get a car, but
Right.
they choose not
They
Which
to.
is
choose not
also,
to.
like, pleasantly medieval.
Yeah.
They want to go backwards.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Matthias is telling them, let's go backwards to where it all started and get rid of all this because that's
Does that
the
sound
problem.
familiar, 2017?
Dystopian films are so relevant.
But I do want to mention that this movie has been sampled by a bunch of bands over the years that I've loved over the years. One being Revolting Cocks,
Well.
We Shall Cleanse the World. Rob Zombie has sampled this movie like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. So a bunch of rock bands have sampled and cited this movie when it comes to their recordings, their albums.
Okay.
Which is I think it's a great side note because it's funny how you listen to these records and you've seen these movies forever, and then all of a sudden you make that one connection
You're
one
like,
day.
oh yeah, that's.
Oh,
yeah.
duh. Right.
Yeah.
That's on the Revolting Cocks record, or
So, Hallie, do you feel like the racial stuff that I'm talking about that you saw in there? How do you feel like that works in with the themes that you're seeing in there, if it does?
I don't know.
Okay.
I do think that there is an element also that injects more of a relativism between Charlton Heston and the cult in the character of what are little brother's name?
Richie.
Richie.
Who gets healed and knows these people, and when he's talking to Charlton Heston, he's kind of like, can't we all just get along? Let's just talk to each other.
Yeah.
Let's just. And Charlton Heston is also like, no, that's
Which is
never
interesting. So
gonna
you've got a young black man saying that to an old white guy.
Yes, that's
which in
true.
'71, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Especially
a big
that-
deal now, but yeah,
Right.
it's a big deal.
especially that scene on the roof
Yeah, it's a key.
where he's like,
scene.
they're
It's a
they're
very, very key-
psychopaths.
He's
You
like,
can't-
they're vermin.
I mean,
I'm gonna
I
wipe
think-
them
Right.
out. Yeah.
I think there is an element where you don't really know who cast the first stone in a way in this situation.
You're right. You actually don't know. You don't know who started this
You
war
just know
between
that
them.
they're going at
yeah,
each
yeah.
other.
It's
and,
just that
and Neville's like, I'm not leaving my home. Like he could go someplace else if he
Yeah.
wanted to and escape them, but he's like, no, this is
You
my
go
home.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, Which is like the typical like old white guy stance,
Yeah.
quote unquote. I will leave my
And I'm
leave
gonna
my
get
home.
my gun and I'm gonna
Yeah.
like protect my property.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
also his way of hanging on to the past. It's probably
Right.
the only way
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
hang on to the past.
Right.
So it's like he's
That he's
to quote
still mourning
yeah
in a way.
to quote the
Right.
Road Warrior, living off the corpse of the old world.
Right.
He's like that guy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're getting into themes now. I always love themes. I feel like belonging is a theme in this movie. When you look at the family, they've created this sense of oneness within each other, and the kind of new survivor group, Lisa and Dutch and them, they've created another group, and Lisa and Richie were with the family, but they were kind of ousted because they didn't quite fit in, right? Meanwhile, Neville, he wants to belong to something early on because he hallucinates like other people,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
Right.
phone
The phone's ringing in the beginning.
and,
Yeah.
and the movie he watches is Woodstock.
Which is
Yes.
funny.
And the sequence he's watching is this guy talking about how it felt so amazing to be with all these people and belong to them.
I've
Yeah.
said this before whenever I've seen this movie. I highly doubt Charlton Heston was ever at Woodstock or had any
No,
interest.
no.
I
But
don't think it had
being
nothing to
at
do with
Woodstock.
but the character.
But it's because it's
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's seeing these people interact, and that's the only way he
it's
can.
just-
Or
Seeing-
it's wanting to be among something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Part of
That's-
something.
How
That's
can
what
I
it is,
see
yeah.
real people in
Right.
en masse again? And that's the only film playing there. Like,
Yeah, but
They had it all
but I
planned
think
out.
I think it's a meaningful choice. Like why pick that scene from that film over anything else?
Because he keeps playing it. He goes into the projection room.
And I think it's because
And, yeah.
the guy is saying, I don't remember the exact words, but it's all about,
Yeah.
I am one with all these people, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
Neville
yeah.
doesn't have.
Well, he also gets to see naked chicks in the crowd.
Well, of course, yeah.
So,
But, I mean, you'd think there'd be other
That's why you
theaters in
would
L.A.
go see
where he could go to, right?
yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but later on, when he's trying to get into a group and belong, Richie's like, no, man, you don't belong. Listen to you. You're hostile. So it's like he can't do he can't be part of this new society.
well, there's definitely an arrogance to him, which is
There
which
is,
is
yeah,
why
yeah.
I think Charlton Heston is a really good choice to play him.
That's a
because
good
I
point,
think Charlton
yeah.
Heston does arrogance excellently.
Oh, yeah.
very good point, yeah.
I
mean,
and
he-
you know,
he
and,
is stuck in
and
this
he was
thing.
he was this like high level important doctor,
Yeah.
and
Actually, in this
you know,
movie, he was a colonel.
And a doctor.
And,
so he was
right.
a military doctor.
He was a military
so
doctor,
It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, he's got it in spades in this. When the chopper goes down, which is that great old school chopper with the globe.
Right.
Yeah, it's like almost a MASH type
Yeah.
shopper, yeah.
Can you think of when a helicopter shows up in any movie? Does that ever mean anything good? It's always a
Not
sign of
usually.
disaster,
Right.
right?
I mean,
And it's
there-
always got to go behind the hill or the,
Because
to explode.
I mean, in the movie world, I think it's always a crisis situation.
See,
Like,
I've seen enough movies where I'm not getting in no helicopter.
literally a movie
not.
called Black Hawk Down.
Right.
Like it's got the name of a helicopter and it says down
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a good thing.
of course, that was based on a true event too. So.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part, staying out of helicopters is a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially
Like
if you're in
if
the
you're-
dystopian future.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the dystopian,
Especially.
which present, future.
If
yada,
your
yada, yada.
pilot might be infected by this thing that will kill him
When he
really
passes
soon,
out, right.
you
Yeah.
probably don't want to be in a helicopter.
And that's where Neville gives himself the
The injection.
cure,
Yeah.
the experimental cure.
Oh,
Yeah.
I totally
When-
missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
When
yeah.
the,
That's when
when
he.
the chopper goes
That's
down.
why his blood has.
Get to the
vaccine,
chopper!
Yeah.
So that's where that's why they have to do that.
Well, yeah, there's flashbacks. It's the same thing with
long
the
flashback.
with the novel. All of this stuff is told in flashback.
Yeah.
And in the novel, they're vampires. They're not, crazy albino mutants or what have you.
Well, what are vampires really but crazy albino mutants?
Well, they're a lot more vicious than these guys were kind of soft. I wouldn't be afraid of them if that turned around, the family and the whole thing. I'd be like,
I don't know. Those scabs are pretty icky on their face.
yeah, but right, everybody's got the same bruises.
Yes.
But they can't fight, and they got prehistoric weapons.
But
So-
that guy is good with a spear, as we have seen.
Well,
He can do a
there
lot
had
of
to be
good
some
stuff.
kind of end to Charlton Heston,
And of course, Christ had a spear stuck in his side too.
Right,
So
once again,
kinda had
the
to be,
religious, the religious symbolism, the spear of destiny.
So since we've been talking about the character Neville, this is, I always talk about this arc thing, right? Does the character of Neville have an arc?
In this movie?
Yes, in this movie.
No. I'd say no.
What do you think?
I'd say no.
If you go back to your thinking about belonging, then in the end, his sacrifice is what makes him belong, and he does sacrifice himself for other people. He's trying to save Lisa.
Right.
So.
But that's just because they hooked up.
Does he?
That's just because they hooked up.
But it seems to me that
I
he
think
would have
with
been.
a lot of guys, that would not be enough to guarantee that they'll stick around.
Exactly. If it was a dystopian future, we'd be like, I don't know. Sorry, baby.
Yeah, good times,
sorry.
but I'm a Rolling Stone.
I gotta go.
But,
seemed...
I think that,
Go on.
yeah, I think maybe in some way he rediscovers his humanity in relation to being part of a society.
And getting laid.
But he always wanted to from the beginning.
Getting laid is part of being a society.
The difference to me is like, okay, you take
one of the better parts.
Like you take the Mad Max movies. He starts out, he's on his own. By the end, he's like helped out his community, and he moves on. Right.
Right.
There's an arc there. Here, it's like from the beginning, he kind of wants people around him because he's hallucinating.
Yeah.
Having people there. I mean, there is a moment when he's talking to Richie, where Richie tells him where the nest is.
Right.
And
on
Neville
the roof.
says,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to bother. But then, of course, he goes there anyway because I don't know if there's a meaningful change in him.
I don't see it. I don't see it either.
Maybe that's what makes him a worthy sacrifice then.
There is no character arc, but there is a spectator arc.
Okay.
There's an arc in the way we, the audience...
Spectator arc.
I know.
That's a new one.
I know. Hurt me for bringing up these fancy,
Big words again. Come on.
Is
Seriously.
that a thing, spectator arc?
It is a thing.
Oh, my
Yes,
goodness.
It is a thing.
Good God Almighty.
In the sense that
Thank you,
We-
Mr. Cinema.
God damn.
we, the audience, go
Bring
through
in
a
Charlton
certain
Heston.
arc. Like, our relationship to the character changes through the course of the story. In the beginning, I feel like he's sympathetic. Like, oh my God, it would suck to be alone in the world. And of course,
in
that's
the
what you
very
do.
beginning, it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I kind of dig the
but
beginning. Yeah, I love it.
But to be totally alone, it doesn't feel like he's talking to himself, and it just feels.
And he also has that moment with the mannequin before he sees Lisa. Where the mannequin, he bumps
that's
into
just
it,
creepy.
and
But
he's going for it.
I
He's,
know.
But how sad is that, though?
Yeah.
That's-
Right.
But then I think, and we see him being kind of noble with the people he finds. He's going to give his own blood. And then we've got the moment with Richie, where our perception can change a little bit. Like, well, he kind of is hostile. Like, what's wrong with this guy? But at the end, we get to the sacrifice. So maybe I'm not saying for sure, but I'm saying maybe what we go through as an audience watching his progress is the arc. I'm proposing that.
I don't know. I mean, he goes right back, like you're saying. When Richie starts talking about, we can save the family, we can go to Matthias, we can do this and that and the other thing. But he goes right back to being, no, they all need to die.
Well, no,
they all need to be
that's what I'm
wiped
saying.
out.
He doesn't have an arc. I'm saying we have an arc.
I
Observing
understand
him.
what you mean. Right.
Like we see him differently at that point than we do maybe early on.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
Our
but there's no.
sympathies change.
But there's.
That's what I think I'm.
But
trying
you
to
started
say.
at the point that does Neville in this film have a character arc,
Right.
and I don't think he really does.
No, I don't think so.
He
I don't
kind of
think so
just
either.
goes with the motions,
No.
Yeah, no.
and then if he
But that's what
wasn't
I'm saying.
killed, right?
Yeah, I'm saying, I'm suggesting that maybe we as an audience have an arc.
Spectator arc.
The
Spectator arc.
Which is a
right?
thing.
Like
Right.
what?
Yeah, which I just learned
our
about.
our relationship to him changes through the course of the movie. That's what I'm suggesting.
See, I still don't buy that.
Okay.
I still don't buy that.
Okay.
I kind of feel like he's kind of straight ahead.
Yes, that's what
He
I'm
is.
saying though.
And that's
he
it.
is.
What about
I'm not,
you
No,
watching
I'm
Me
not saying
watching
him.
him?
Yes.
I never felt that, to be honest.
Okay.
Watching the film, I never felt like I had the spectator arc.
Okay.
I never got that
You
because
might
he
be
just kind of
immune.
went like this and that,
Because you're
going
dead
with.
inside, Walt.
Yeah, my heart is black. I might as well be the Omega Man, and I'll be happy with that. Nah, by
we
myself,
go.
fuck it.
Here we go.
You know,
He's not going to do the cravat, though.
no, and no
I'm
green.
doing a cravat.
velvet jacket. No.
You're gonna head straight over to.
Where am I heading to?
Where?
I know, right? Oh, you're mean.
All right, so we were talking earlier about all these weapons, these spears and things. Something I want to know, guys. There is a moment when they have this, essentially a siege engine, this thing it's kind of like what they used to call a ballista. A ballista was like a giant kind of crossbow thing. They don't use to like shoot bolts in this one. It's like they're hurling like fireballs at.
Yeah.
So where did they get that?
They had to have made it, I guess.
The people who were not busy making the robes were building the ballista.
So
or maybe Home Depot was still open. I don't know.
Let me get this straight. So somehow they found the plans, real good blueprints to building a ballista siege engine.
And once again, half blind.
They had a group of blacksmiths like smelting, iron or whatever.
Right.
They had woodcutters fashioning all the components for this thing.
I think it's funny that I obsessed about the construction of the robes and you obsessed about the construction of this medieval weapon.
Well, it kind of like
because that didn't even cross my mind. I'm like, okay,
like
whatever.
why? What you would if you were living in a post-apocalyptic world, it would be easier to go and just grab a tank from an army base.
Sure.
Than to
Some
build
guns,
a
yeah.
ballista.
That was,
Right.
Okay.
But that is against their principles.
So you're going to sit there and build a big siege engine?
If you are a principled member of your cult family and you are going to commit to all having matching robes, then yes.
Well, they had no problem with glitter robes and aviator sunglasses.
Yeah.
And shit like this. So
they could just
you would
put that.
think that they would just say, all right, you know what? Let's cut a corner here.
I
Let's
mean,
just,
what I would think is that
let's get a car. Let's get
maybe
a Jeep.
A catapult would be easier to build than a ballista.
Well, not really. Not really. Well, maybe that's why
Easy
it's
is
shot
highly
so.
relative.
That's why it's shot so poorly, I think. Because, they're trying to get the fireball into his window. Out of 3 shots, they got 1 in there. It was all, bro.
So they're anti-science, but you have to do some, you have to, know physics, and you have to, chart things out.
The fact is that is technology.
It is technology,
it's just not
Contemporary
contemporary technology.
It's engineering.
It's engineering.
It's
total engineering.
engineering.
But it was the Patriot missile of its day.
Yeah.
And who wants to know?
Now we come to a segment that I like to call
Max's Bits!
That's right. Okay.
Max's Bits.
But according to Charlton Heston's own account, when he did the little love scene with Rosalind Cash, who plays Lisa, she said to him, "It's a spooky feeling to screw Moses."
To screw Moses. Yeah, I read that.
I'm just going to put
That's
that
a
out
great
there.
one.
Let's put that out there.
It's a great one.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
She went
interesting.
for it. She seems all in the film. She seems,
Well,
there's
she might be a good actress.
There's a pun in
She's
there.
an actress.
An actor.
I said I wouldn't do sex jokes in this one.
Oh, come on.
You haven't done any yet. You can do one.
I get one.
Oh,
I
you get one,
okay.
huh? All
I'll
right.
work my way
Make
up.
it good.
All right. So there's one. Okay, they're in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
West Coast, right?
Yeah.
So why does Neville say to her, "Where did you ever see a stream of fish in Harlem?"
Right.
Yes,
what-
that's
right.
so bizarre.
So,
Because
So-
she says,
so-
right. She
so to
says,
him-
I want to see a brook.
so to him,
Yeah.
every black person is from Harlem.
They
Yeah.
all
That was
originate in Harlem.
that was probably the most racist thing said in this movie.
That was
Yeah,
the biggest.
it
That
was.
was my biggest
Of
thing.
course,
and he
Neville
also
said it.
says it, with his back turned to her.
Yeah.
Where have you ever seen fish
Here's
in
a
Harlem?
thought.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
Where did they originally intend to set it in New York? And then they realized that they couldn't handle the location and whatever.
That's
so they
possible.
Set it in LA,
That's possible,
but
yeah,
nobody
yeah.
ever noticed it in the script.
It's
never
also
know.
the closed mindset of certain people where all black people come from Harlem, New York.
Well,
Yeah.
They all come from Harlem.
And what he never heard the Watts riots?
Right.
That's in L.A.
Yeah, right.
That's a neighborhood
Yeah.
in L.A.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a lot of black people. What?
But her response
really
is like,
weird.
I saw him on the TV. And it's like,
Yeah, so it's
no!
Yeah, no, come on. You could have gone fishing once in
And
your life.
camping.
It's
I mean,
like a
yeah,
yeah.
right. It's
glitch
not
that
exclusive
no one
to
ever-
white
that was
white
very,
folk.
very
It's
strange.
really, it's a real, it's. That's one of the period details that just reads wrong.
Like I said, the way it's delivered too.
Yeah, otherwise it feels really like progressive for its time, quite
Yeah.
honestly. One final bit. So when they're going to take Neville to Dodger Stadium to do a whole Wicker Man thing with him, they put a conical hat on his head. And interestingly enough, that was a thing that happened in medieval England for witches.
Yeah.
Like they would put that.
Yeah.
They do it in Holy Grail.
They do in Holy Grail, yeah, which is
So you know that it really happened.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And of
Because
course,
nobody knows better than Monty Python.
Absolutely not.
in parts of Europe, they did it with Jewish people too.
Yeah.
Which are, basically equivalent to witches in their mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are a lot of racial commentaries in this film.
It's
A
really
lot.
interesting. Yeah.
Social, political, racial commentaries in this film.
Okay, so I think on that note, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. So, Walt, give me your overall take on this movie.
I have a soft spot for this film just because I saw it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And we had reviewed Logan's Run, where when we were kids, we would play Logan's Run,
Yeah.
Sandman and Runner. And the same thing with Omega Man. When we saw it as kids, there's one person that's the Omega Man, and the rest of the guys chasing you.
Yeah.
Your friends were, the family,
Okay.
and you had to kind of survive.
Walt had an
kind of-
interesting childhood, obviously.
Definitely.
Oh, very, very much so. Where I would come up with these stupid games because I would watch these movies and kids would be like, all right, yeah, let's do it, So it was a lot of fun doing that, and seeing these films like The Omega Man, my dad would watch them.
Okay.
So I would watch them with him. And so it opened up another aspect of science fiction and film and, like I said, horror.
Yeah.
The whole thing, because this is a horror movie, basically, almost at its core.
In many ways, yeah.
I mean, coming from the source material once again with Richard Matheson, I Am Legend.
Sure.
And this is the second shot at trying to adapt his novel into a film. The first being The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, and Matheson was involved in that script, and he was so upset about the way the film turned out that he didn't want to be credited on that movie. Love Vincent Price.
How can you not love Vincent Price?
So this is the second shot. Then we had one after in, I believe it was 2000 some odd, with Will Smith,
one, yeah.
which is actually called I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Well, once again, I
This
think
one
they dropped the ball.
has 100% fewer German shepherds than that one did.
Well, there
And-
is a
and I
dog
think
in
that-
the original novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that adaptation, that's the only thing it has over this one, basically.
That's a good point. No, I'm
Right.
with you on that. Yeah.
Well, also that they
But I like German shepherds. So.
in the I Am Legend version with Will Smith, they did introduce the fact that he had a wife and child, and that's also
Right.
in the novel. They succumbed to the disease, so to speak. And there's apparently one more that's called I Am Omega that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
That came out, I think, in 2015 or 2016.
It was
but I
like
haven't
direct to
seen.
video or something.
Yeah, it's one of
Or
those.
DVD. Yeah.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
So I have no interest
Probably not going
because
to be very satisfying.
Yeah.
no, I'd watch The Omega Man or Last Man on Earth. Vincent Price is great in it, and I think the opening with The Last Man on Earth is closer to the novel than we've ever gotten with all these film adaptations. And like I said, I got a soft spot for it, so I do like it. I do like it a lot. Does it stand the test of time? I'm asking you.
Will get to me in a moment.
Okay.
What do you think?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, it's great in the sense that it's 1971.
It's definitely a period piece.
Yeah.
It is very much
So
of
it's great
its
to
time,
see
yeah.
what the future was supposed to be
What
in
1975 looked like from
Right.
1971.
From that
yeah.
perspective, from this director's perspective. Boris Siegel again. Siegel?
Siegel. Yeah.
Sorry, we're not pronouncing your name correctly.
You know, he was almost exclusively a TV director.
Yeah.
This
does feel like a TV movie,
yeah,
right?
he was just hired for the job. I think that the main creative voice was the producer Walter Seltzer, who also produced Soylent Green.
Which makes a lot of sense because then we have Zachary,
Yeah.
Lincoln Kilpatrick. Lincoln Kilpatrick,
Nice.
who was also in Soylent Green as Father Paul. Yeah, so, I mean, I still go back to it. I still love watching it. But like I said, as time goes on, I feel like it hasn't really stood up to the test of time.
Okay.
But I think it's still a worthy watch if you're a completist when it comes to science fiction, horror, dystopian type films, that you have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
At
And
least
Charlton Heston movies.
a couple of
Yes.
times. Yeah, if you know.
And his chest.
Again with his chest. He's got that great barrel chest.
That is a hirsute man.
Greasy, hairy. Jesus Christ.
Okay, Hallie,
Yeah.
what is your take on this?
Well, I had a very different. I have a very different experience with it than Walt did in terms of this is the first time I've ever seen this movie.
Shame on you.
Yeah, you know, things happen. I did see. I believe I've seen The Last Man on Earth. I don't remember it very well.
Yes, we did watch it, and of course we did watch I Am Legend. So you have seen all
Yes,
three
I
versions
saw
as
I Am
well.
Legend. I did not, aside from the German Shepherd, I did not care for I Am Legend. Feel
Nobody
like
likes
this-
I Am Legend. I don't mean to interject, but
no.
nobody likes
No,
that
you're right.
version at
yeah,
all.
There's no
I'm
reason
pretty
to,
aware
yeah.
of that too. I definitely enjoyed watching this more than I enjoyed watching I Am Legend.
Sure.
I do like me some Charlton Heston in the right
When he's wearing a shirt.
when he's wearing his shirt and in the right sort of, or his robe or his
Right.
tunic, whatever it might be. Although you go back to the Ten Commandments and shirtless Charlton Heston in the mud pit is not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Wow, we really have to do a side.
there
Side-
might be a side podcast here.
Charlton Heston's chest.
the
Yeah.
shirtless
Actually,
scenes of Charlton Heston.
That's the name of my next band. Charlton Heston's chest. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, like I was saying, to suspend disbelief because otherwise you take it all
Yeah,
apart right away.
Exactly, and I can do that too.
Yeah, yeah. But you have to point out certain
good-
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
robes,
just to
man.
talk
Well,
about
see,
it.
this is
do
why
deep
we
dive.
do this.
Exactly. So we talk about
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
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 I think it's actually a deeply, deeply pessimistic movie.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
in the end, you have maybe the number of people left total are in the double digits,
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and they still can't stop fighting.
See, that's
That's
the other
a
thing
good
too
point. Yeah.
that I wanted to mention. So he gives over his blood for the serum. Now Richie was going to produce antibodies, but they killed him. They just have this one jar of blood that Neville hands over to Duke or
That's the magic.
So they
or
Dutch.
Dutch.
So presumably they're gonna inoculate all the kids.
And that's
you
like
hope.
Lisa bring her back, and
And-
then
Right.
she
and
inoculates everybody
Lisa.
else.
But you see, it's kind of left on that note, like
Yeah.
big. Remember
Yeah,
when
big
horror
question
movies
mark.
used to do that? You know, where it would
Because
just
what if
stop
someone
like
drops
the
jar
end.
and,
I mean,
Right.
It seemed like like a
Exactly.
hopeful, like
Yeah,
there's a
there was
promise of
there was
something
a
hopeful
note of
going
hope
on.
at the
Yeah.
end, but in general,
Oh, it is.
not a
Yeah.
pretty dim view of humankind and
Oh,
how
yeah.
we will respond in a crisis of our very existence.
You see,
which,
you're right.
Buckle up, people, because
The
At
future
this-
sucks.
At the same time, you got the family getting larger and larger. And once again, I hate to keep going back and repeating myself, but in the novel, there are the infection didn't just infect living people to turn them into vampires. It also infected the dead, where they would come
it's always
back.
bad when you resurrect the dead. That's,
Unless you're George Romero, those movies are fucking fantastic.
well, yeah, I mean, but it's not good news for anybody who's in them.
They would be like berserker zombie types.
Berserkers.
Where they didn't have their facilities, they couldn't speak, they would just go crazy. So they didn't introduce that in this, and I think that they tried to do that with I Am Legend, the Will Smith
Right, yeah,
version,
they were more a zombie
Right.
sort of
Yeah, but it's stupid.
but CGI.
So
you know.
suck ass.
CGI. I will take.
I'm tired of Will Smith
million,
always trying to save the world.
Questionable robes over bad
Yeah.
CGI.
Yeah.
Like give me analog.
See, that's why
Give me death.
I give me analog or give me death.
Okay, so since we're all talking about the different versions, yes, despise the I Am Legend Will Smith version because it's stupid. Last Man on Earth. This is my thing with it. I, of course, love the original novel by Richard Matheson, which I'm not going to spoil here because no one's actually done it faithfully. I recommend anybody read that one. It's very short, excellent. Last Man on Earth gets really, really close to that novel, but
Very
doesn't
close.
quite get there.
No.
And to me, that is more disappointing than something like The Omega Man, which gets kind of far from the novel, but does its own thing. I prefer something like this than something that kind of gets there but doesn't quite make it.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Okay.
Yes.
See,
I
the one thing I got to say about the original novel, with not giving away,
Yeah.
but the ending is so powerful.
That's what I'm saying.
We've never really seen that.
Yeah, Last Man on Earth kind of gets it, but it doesn't.
Close, right.
So
but not
that's
really.
why it doesn't quite work for me. This one doesn't even bother with a novel in any real
It
sense.
starts, and
but
that's
the
basically.
basic premise, but that's
Yeah,
all.
that's it,
that's
yeah.
all it's in
It
there.
takes the premise and runs with it.
Yeah,
in its
yeah.
Own...
So that's why I prefer this to something like Last Man on Earth, which isn't quite there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. But for this movie specifically, there's so much I like about it. It's so much fun. I mean, I've watched it repeatedly. I'll watch it again. But it falls apart for me in the last act.
Oh yeah, by Act 3.
For two
Yeah.
specific reasons.
I'll go with that.
Okay, I love the speech that Richie gives Neville on the rooftop.
On the roof, yeah.
You know, you're hostile. You know, you think they're vermin. You want to kill them all. That is really interesting. It sets up a possibility of that
A sequel.
well, no, that the family, they have a point or something.
Right,
But then Richie goes over there and gets killed, which makes sense because the family is fanatical. But those two scenes don't work together in the same movie, is my problem. Because
right.
one scene implies that the family are redeemable. The other one implies that they are irredeemable.
Right.
And to make a solid point, I think the movie has to choose one or the other.
Although I think it goes to the larger severe pessimism of it, that neither of them are redeemable.
Yeah, nobody's right.
People are
Yeah.
not. They're basically saying people are not redeemable.
I
Right,
think
nobody's right.
That's
Yeah.
that's a,
Yeah.
I can feel that. Yeah.
They're
So,
not-
and Richie is the only one. You know, you're like, yeah. Listen,
He's the innocent one.
Right,
He
he's
gets
got
slaughtered.
that childish
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
of we can all, like you said earlier, get along and we can fix
Childish,
things
crazy idea.
and
It's
help each
deeply
other out
pessimistic.
and all
Yeah.
this. You know,
No, you're right. Yeah, but the other thing that really, really just does not work for me is Lisa's turning. Okay,
because
But-
that happens like
It's really fast.
no,
Boom.
the fact that she turns is okay because we established that
yeah.
earlier because Dutch says that I saw
Everybody's
someone
got
turn.
it, yeah.
Well,
said
and that he said that some guy he saw, like, he looked away.
turn
and
like
all of a sudden-
instantly.
yeah.
But,
all right.
but okay, turning is one thing, but becoming part of the family is another thing. She becomes a full-on family member within a couple of hours.
And why
Why
is
would she
that,
do that?
Why is that part of the infection?
Exactly.
It's true. Why is
exactly.
that
Like,
part of all of a
the
sudden I see?
infection has these physical effects on you,
Right.
But the infection should not mean that I am now I worship
It
Matthias.
sort
Right,
of
yeah.
suggested the infection itself makes you part of this larger biological entity in a way.
Almost like some sort of.
You're not gonna
Wow.
say that.
I know,
I
right?
don't
What?
think I-
It's not gonna fly.
It's just like the disease degenerates your mind and makes you susceptible to maybe influenced by someone like Matthias. But she's already had this experience of living with these people, caring for Richie.
And that's why she
And
got out.
getting with Charlton Heston, and suddenly she's going to betray him.
How's she going to give up that
doesn't-
chest?
And of course, but then she's like waffling. Oh, I don't know if I'm. The entire last act hinges upon her defecting to the family, but they don't quite make it work.
It's not
To
complete.
me,
it's not complete.
It falls apart
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah,
from,
there's a missing
from a
element there.
like every time I watch it, I'm so into it, but until that happens,
Yeah.
love this movie obviously, but it's not quite there. I think the scriptwriters they had a lot of things going. I think that they had a lot of great ideas. I just feel like it needed another draft or something.
Well, isn't this another movie that suffered from that, where it went through draft and draft and draft, and then he finally said, "We're just going to make it."
I don't actually know. I mean, I from what I understand, there are two scriptwriters. One was kind of more on the spiritual side. One's more like the scientific side.
Okay.
And they kind of created this movie that had both elements, which is really interesting to me. And there's great
Sure.
ideas in there from both camps.
Right.
But maybe there wasn't anybody to kind of shape it into an actual, like, really good, like, character-focused script to make
Right,
those
right.
things work.
Right,
The
right.
mechanical, structural things work.
Right.
Because that's where I think it is kind of misses the
Yeah,
mark.
yeah.
somewhat. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Like I said, Act 3 is so rushed.
Yeah,
It feels
just
very
doesn't.
rushed.
It just falls
And
apart.
when it ends like
Yeah, it's like all
Yeah.
just for the purpose of getting Charlton Heston speared into a crucifixion pose.
yeah.
Which is a worthy goal, quite honestly.
We're not gonna
but
question
but
the goal.
Jesus Christ, Bo.
but I think you need to work a little bit harder to get to that point.
Agreed.
All right, so we got a couple of points of business. First piece of business: how much does the future suck in this movie on a scale from 1 to 10? Walt.
It sucks very hard. This is a 10 for me.
Yeah.
It's a 10.
So you're saying it's worse than Road Warrior?
Yeah. You see, Road Warrior, I would take that
But
chance.
you've got gas everywhere in this movie.
I guess. I don't want to be turned into some crazy albino mutant.
True.
You know?
That might not be a good thing.
And I don't want to be the last man on Earth, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know? Being eradicated. So I think it's a 10 with this one. Like I said, with Road Warrior, I can get in my car,
Yeah.
find some gas, or hustle some gas out of some other motherfucker,
Yeah.
and just keep trucking and move. Unless I decide to help somebody. See, I would be that selfish Mad Max. Oh, there's a camp over there. They're looking for help. Right past it.
Good
Sorry.
luck with that, Walt.
Walt's
Hallie.
not going to pick us up. on
Hallie, your
the
turn.
word. Well, early on in the movie, when we were, when he's cruising along with his tunes playing.
I thought that
it's
was
just
rad.
I know. I'm like, I kind of am feeling that. I
Yeah.
would like to be there, but then the suck factor, 10. I have to say, because it really does not hold out. There's a little bit of like, oh, maybe they'll take his blood and like make themselves better and stuff. But there's really, it takes a real dim view of the potential for humanity to redeem itself.
Right. Yeah. See, I agree with you, if you don't mind me saying.
Please.
Agree
That
with
it's
you.
fun. It's fun to, get in a car and just drive around and do whatever, and nobody's around, and for a little while, like you were saying, Max, yourself. That's a lot of fun to do for a minute. But when you start hallucinating and you start
Hallucinations are not fun.
losing your mind, unless you want to hallucinate, you want to hallucinate. I got some. Anyway.
Talk about that later.
But, that's the fun part for a little bit. But once you're doing that for the span of a couple of years, you could see going mad.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I added to the suck factor.
Yeah.
That you could lose your mind.
I mean, it's like solitary confinement.
Yeah, right. You're in the hole,
Not in a physical way, but although he is kind of confined in his house when they're like taking
He
the
is,
ballista
yeah.
and shooting at him.
Yeah.
Although I would think that having an antagonist would help keep you sane, because
That might be part of it for him.
yeah.
Because he lives for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his contact. Is
Yeah.
like, all right,
Well, it's true. It became his mission
Uh-huh.
to hunt them down.
Yeah, it gives you purpose.
Yep.
That and buying jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Or stealing jumpsuits.
Stealing and driving cars out of
And
dealerships.
and frilly tops and
And
velour suits.
lovely moss green velvet jackets.
Right?
I can see
Velvet,
you in,
right.
I can see you in moss green, Walt.
Oh, hell no.
You're a redhead. Green
You can
looks
say,
good on you.
oh, no way.
Yeah.
I don't do green well.
My-
Anyway.
my ruling is the outfits would be awesome, but being kept up all night by mutants would suck. I give it an 8. Okay.
8. Why?
Because you can still survive. You've got plenty of food. You've got water. You can live. A lot of these other movies,
Well, mostly,
you could
I don't mean to
be
cut you off.
dead pretty soon.
But he doesn't drink any water in this
But
movie.
isn't
He
a
just
life-
drinks all kinds of booze.
And is
Well,
it a life?
yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely would.
Yeah.
Is it a life worth living?
No, but it frequently is not in a dystopian future. It
Right,
frequently-
yeah.
But I would take this over Soylent Green any day. I'd rather
All
take
right.
no people than too
Yeah,
many people.
I would.
And,
I
that's
would,
the thing.
and eating people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In cracker form.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, one last piece of business. All right, Walt, do you have the ceremonial coin? Okay, who's tossed this, Walt?
I think I tossed.
I think it's
last
my
time.
toss this time.
Yep. There you go.
All right, Walt, you go ahead and call it.
Give it a flip, man. I want to hear that shit hit the table.
Okay. Call it.
Tails.
Walt, it is heads.
Fuck!
That means it is my choice, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, so we have just chosen the oldest movie that we have done so far, 1971.
Yep.
And we've kind of been locked in a groove where we've been choosing movies from a certain decade, like the 70s, early 80s, right?
Yeah, and trying to hit people up to them.
Yeah. So I'm going to break out of that. I'm going to pick something that's fairly recent.
Okay.
Doomsday.
Oh, okay.
And you know why.
Neil Marshall?
Neil
Yes.
Marshall, 2008.
Okay. All right.
That is the next movie.
Okay. I'm down with that.
Cool. Okay. All right, people. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much, Hallie, for joining us on this one.
It was lovely to be here, gentlemen.
Hope you didn't mind being kidnapped for a while to talk about Charlton Heston's chest.
I can engage in discussions of Charlton Heston's chest. The pros,
Excellent.
the cons.
Right.
Whale.
The hairs.
The
Yes,
years.
yes.
Right.
The
eras,
hairs.
The eras.
The
Right.
abundant hairs.
All right, people. Once again, Useless Info Inc. I'm Walt.
I am Max.
And we'll see you next time around. Or you'll listen to us next time around.
We're on the Twitters, we're on the YouTubes, and we've got a website coming up too.
Future sucks.
Future sucks. Bye.